All right. Welcome to another one of our videos. In this one, we are going to discuss and demo one of the more loved syntactic constructs in Python, and that's comprehensions. Right? Comprehensions are this elegant syntax for creating collections such as lists, sets, and dictionaries, right? And let's get into it right away. Now, let's start with list comprehensions, and then we will show a little bit of set comprehensions, and then we will do dictionary comprehensions. And I'm just going to show the patterns here and leave it up to you to really have the model of how this works sink in, right? But hopefully I show enough of these that it becomes obvious to you. So let's say we want to build a list of numbers, 1 to 10, right? One way of doing that would be we initialize an empty list. We say for num in numbers, for num in range 1 to 11, because we want to go up to 10, but not including this that we have here for the stop. We want to do numbers dot append num, and we can print numbers, and there we go. We have a list 1 to 10. This is legitimate. We can build a list like this and it'll be fine, right? But what if we could take these 3 lines and reduce it to a single line without compromising understandability or readability, right? So let's try this again with, I'm gonna call this number C for comprehensions, and we are gonna say num for num in range 1 to 11, and that's it. This, we have a comprehension, all right? A single line, and it doesn't seem we've compromised on understanding, right? We could read this as, we start out with these square brackets. So we say, build a list that includes all the numbers that are in each number that's in the range 1 to 11, excluding 11, right? And there we have it. Okay, let's see how we would do this for sets. Now we want to build a set, and if you haven't seen my video on set basics in Python, I highly recommend you go and check that out. But we can also build sets in using comprehensions. We may do something like, what's the set of numbers between 1 and 5? And so we may say nums for num in range 1 to 6. We do set nums dot add num. And we can do that. Fine. We have our set of numbers 1 to 5. But we can also do it as a comprehension. Right? Let us do set nums c is equal to curly braces, right? Num for num in range 1 to 5. And I'm using range here because this is convenient and appropriate for what we're doing here. But this could be anything that you can iterate over, right? And you can just put that here. And let's print set nums. See? Whoop. Off by 1 error. And there we go. Set comprehensions. Okay. Let's say that I have first, let's try and build a list, right? I have a dictionary. And dictionaries are curly braces, and there is a key, colon, and a value. And you can have multiple such keys, values. That's a dictionary. Well, we could do something along the lines of, let me create a list of people, and in this, I have tuples of someone's name and their age, and but we want this to be a dictionary. Now, I'm sure there are more convenient ways than what I'm about to do here, but you could do this. You could say for name and age in this people list, do people D, where we have name and we set it to age. And so we can print people D. we go. Okay. Well, we could do a comprehension for this as well. Let's do people see curly braces, similar to the set, which can be confusing, but the key difference is going to be that colon that we have here. We could say name, age for name and age in people. And there we have a dictionary comprehension. Cool. Nice. Now, if we wanted to make the list comprehension a tuple afterwards, then we could just call the tuple constructor on it. If we wanted to start out with it as a list and convert it to a set, then we can do that. I just wanted to show that that was possible. And if I'm not mistaken, let's try something here. I think that if we have a list of tuples that can easily be converted to a dictionary, let's do by calling the dict constructor on the list of pairs that we have for people here. I think this should work. And if it doesn't, I would have learned something. It does. I mean, I still learned something. It confirms that I knew what I thought was going on. Okay. So yes, we can do this with comprehensions, but I just wanted to show that there are alternatives out there and that the examples I'm using are purely for illustrative purposes. Fine. I'm now going to take a step back. Forget about the dictionary, forget about the set, and focus on list comprehensions for the purpose of demonstrating that you can filter in list comprehensions. Now, let's take let's do this again, where we have even numbers 1 to 10, and we're going to create a list comprehension. 1 to 11. Right? Fine. This doesn't give us even numbers, and we can filter this to give us the even numbers. So by appending a filter to the end of word comprehension here, say that num for num in range 1 to 10, 1 to 11, if num is divisible by 2, right? And so we want to print even num. Then at the end, we should see even numbers between 1 and 10. Now, I'm sure somebody watching this right now is thinking, oh no, why didn't you just use the step parameter here and do 2 or something like this? And I'm not too sure if I'm gonna get this right. I probably am not. But you could do something like this, right? Where you say you use the step parameter and you just go 2 up. The only tricky thing here is that I think this is going to include the 0, which we don't really want to include. So we probably would do this. And that would give us our same answers. Yes, we can do that. But I am doing this for illustrative purposes, just to show how we can do filters in our comprehensions. Right? So we can filter our comprehensions. You could do this if this were a set comprehension too. You could filter your dictionary comprehension as well. Fine. Another way that you could probably do your filter is by just using the filter function to say that, you know, whatever number you got, if the number is divisible by 2, you could do range 11, and this would get you the same thing. Right, we gotta turn this back into a list. It's one way of doing things. Again, not what this video is necessarily about, but that's an option if you want to do filters. Cool. We could also do maps through list comprehensions. And I'm going to double every even number between 1 and 10 by doing I can say 2 times num for num in range 1 to 11 if num is divisible by 2. And I'm going to print my double evens. Right? So this is an example of using a dictionary. Well, both of these are examples of using comprehensions, my bad, for transforming your list, but transforming it in 2 different ways. One, we're filtering to reduce the set, and another is we're just transforming, we're applying a transform to each member of the list. So now we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Wonderful. And again, we may have some folks who would rather see something like this. Over my evens 1 to 10. And we can print that. And you are absolutely right. This is legitimate, and probably I would be biased towards using this approach, or it doesn't matter. Right? Not what we're about today. I'm just showing off how very cool it is that we can take what these 3 lines of code and transform them into a single line without sacrificing much readability and understanding, or any at all. In some cases, things you probably improve because you don't have to scan too much, especially for the simpler ones. I also want to show that what we did with the filtering would be akin to if we did this. 0, then we append. That's what we were doing with the filtering. And what we were doing with the mapping was this. Right. Cool. But we don't have to look at much. Well, we were applying both a filter and a map. We'll look at all of these symbols that we have to parse through in order to get an idea of what's going on here, as opposed to something like this where you can just read it straight out. Multiply num by 2 for all the numbers in here if it's even. Right? And we could even clean this up by making this a function over here called even, and so it reads with more natural language, or have something that's called double here. So we could do double num if that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Right. And that is comprehensions in Python. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was informative. And feel free to let me know in the comments if I missed anything that you think is cool about comprehensions that I did not cover, so that I too can learn from you. But I think this is one of the cooler parts of Python. Comprehensions are not exclusive to Python. Of course, there are several other languages that have comprehensions in them. Known to me is Haskell. Haskell has a cool comprehensions syntax as well. But yeah, it's a very cool syntax. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, do what all the YouTube people do, you know. All right, big up yourself. Take care, everyone.